From a secret underground bunker somewhere in the Arizona desert, 40 feet below the Earth's surface, two men, aided by their robotic artificial intelligence, Jennifer,
At your service.
hide from their wives and kids to discuss man stuff with interesting and unusual people. These men are the Bunker Boys. The Bunker Boys are in the house, and we're so glad you've joined us. This is the haunted bunker today. We're going to discuss things that are Halloweeny and go bump in the night, and we're going to discuss some fun stuff about movies, old scary stuff, with one of my favorites. We'll start off with, you remember Boris Karloff?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you ever watch a lot of scary movies when you were a kid?
Yeah, kind of, I guess.
You know, sometimes when you just say Boris Karloff, you get spooky things happen. I don't know why that is.
Well, because he's a spooky actor, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I was reading interviews with him and about him. I think it was in Life or Look magazine a long time ago. And they were talking about how nice of a person he really is. He just plays that very macabre, strange kind of guy. But he's actually like a grandpa. Well, when he passed away, he was a grandpa. And he loved kids. Not eating them or anything, but he...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he liked children. He just was a great grandfatherly type of guy.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah. A cousin of mine collects a lot of his stuff. I think he's got some old monster model kits.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Did you ever build those?
Mm-hmm.
Those tester kits?
Yeah.
Made by Testor?
I think I had the Frankenstein one, matter of fact.
That was one of the most famous ones that they had, along with their cars. They had cars and airplanes and various things. But the werewolf, the mummy, and Frankenstein were very, very hot. And if you have one of those original models, they're worth some bucks.
Are they really?
Yeah, even if they're assembled. If they're not assembled and they're still in the box, they're worth more.
More, yep.
Yeah, Boris Karloff, William Henry Pratt was his birth name. And he was born in 1887, died in 1969.
Wow.
5'11", but they made him look much bigger when he became Frankenstein's monster. See?
Back then it was scary.
Yeah, well, it still holds up pretty well today. Watch it in a dark room. I got the DVD on that.
If you watch it with your eyes closed?
If you watch it with your eyes closed, it's worse because you really don't know what's going on. That's what makes radio so scary sometimes. But yeah, and he was, of course, in The Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein. He was Imhotep in The Mummy, and he became the Mummy.
Imhotep?
Imhotep. Yeah, that's the guy's name. Or I'm Hotep, if you want to make it weird. He was married 6 times, and each marriage lasted between 2 to 3 years. But his last wife was named Evelyn Hope, and he stayed married to her for the longest, which was the last 24 years of his life. And other than Frankenstein, he was probably most famous for being the voice of a famous Christmas animated special.
What was that?
It was, are you ready? Now, you'll remember this as soon as I say it, because everybody goes, oh yeah, that's right, that voice. The Grinch That Stole Christmas.
Uh-huh.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And the Grinch stole Christmas. You know, he had that weird way he spoke.
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Boris Karloff and the Grinch did this and he did that and he read the rhyme throughout the whole story. He was such a great narrator. Rumor has it he got his stage name, from the mad scientist in a novel called The Drums of Jeopardy. But when people researched into that, they realized, well, that book came out 8 years after he became a famous actor. So that couldn't have been the truth. His career had already been well on its way by then. He started off on the stage in Canada, and then, and after doing a lot of different various back-breaking jobs, research showed that there was a book by Edgar Rice Burroughs. It was a fantasy novel called H.R.H. the Writer, which has a Prince Boris of Karlova in it. And they think maybe he got his name from that. So always considered the black sheep of his family. I think he was one of the youngest of brothers.
Yeah, he's probably the richest of his family.
And that's probably the truth, too. His brothers all became dignitaries with the British Foreign Service, and he was considered the lowlife because he was just a lowly actor. And he didn't see his family a long time after he became an actor because he felt they might be ashamed of him. And he was kind of half afraid to go back to visit them. But when he finally did, it was during the filming of the movie The Ghoul in 1933. And you know what a ghoul is? Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a flesh-eating dead creature, I guess. Well, he meets up with his brothers thinking they're still holding that against him, and he was a bit nervous about it. But then when they saw him, they were so thrilled to see him, they couldn't wait to get in line to get their pictures taken with him.
Oh, I'll be darned.
So he says he's got a picture of at the time, had a picture of all of his brothers with him. And he said that was his most treasured photograph that he kept.
How many brothers did he have again?
He didn't say in the documentary I had seen, but I'm sure on the Frankenstein movie, they've got a documentary on him. I'm going to have to watch that. I didn't watch that one yet. I watched a different one on him. But I don't know. I think it was 3, but yeah, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But to find out that he's a really down-to-earth guy and a very warm, friendly person in person, you would never know that seeing the roles that he plays. He's got a lot of actors are that way, right?
Yeah.
Was there a favorite you had of his, or was Frankenstein the one that you remember the most?
Yeah. I remember some movies, but I don't remember the names of the movies. So.
Yeah, I have to look them up because I can't remember. I know some of them were like Son of Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein. I think he was in that one. Bride of Frankenstein.
Was the bride.
Yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, it's interesting to dig into their life just a little bit. He'd hurt his back. He had some back trouble because of some day labor job he had, and it acted up on him throughout his whole career. So he always had some back problems. But let's see what else. He worked for the railroad for a while as a baggage handler, and he helped clean up a tornado that happened in 1912 in Canada before he became super famous.
Wow.
I guess there were a lot of other actors that helped there too. And the first role he ever had was a film by Frank Borzage, or Borzage, I don't know how you pronounce it, at Universal. Nobody has discovered what the name of the movie was after a lot of research, but he was supposedly paid a handsome sum of $5 for being an extra in the crowd in that movie. But I always liked The Raven with him and Vincent Price. That's when there were 2 warlocks sitting at this big, long oak table. The table looked like it was 30 feet long in this old mansion. And I forget what the whole premise of the movie is, but they end up doing this battle, and they're throwing fireballs at each other. And
I don't remember that one.
yeah, they don't play it very often on television.
I remember Vincent Price.
But yeah, The Raven.
He was in all kinds of good movies.
Yeah, Vincent was, he's very likable too, very funny guy. Did that open for Michael Jackson's song, the Thriller. That's Vincent Price's voice, where he laughs at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I hear he was really nice. I saw him, I don't know if you folks dig into YouTube, but I love YouTube because it has all these old classic shows on it, all these game shows. And you remember To Tell the Truth? Mm-hmm. And I forget who hosted that show, but I remember the show very well. And they would ask questions of a mystery guest, and all the contestants or the regular celebrities would wear blindfolds, and they would have to guess who this famous person was that was sitting in front of them.
They disguised their voice.
Oh yeah, they would not tell them, but they had to answer honestly any question put to them. And they asked him all various questions, and one of them guessed who he was. They figured it out. But he was in town for an art exhibit. He was a famous art collector. Who knew? He really enjoyed art, and he had a real wry sense of humor. He was just funny, and he was making up a voice, so they couldn't tell who he was.
What kind of art did he collect, I wonder?
They did mention it, but I can't remember if it was...
See how you are?
Yeah, no, you get to this age, and it's just not
get
super
everybody
important.
Excited, and then all of a sudden you can't remember.
Pull the rug out from under him. Yeah, well, that's the way it happens. Were you a regular watcher of horror movies as a kid?
No, not really.
And see, I made it a habit. I would do it every Saturday. I considered myself lucky because we had, I don't know how many hosts. Let me think about this. We had Ghoulardi, which was Ernie Anderson, and then he quit and moved to L.A. to be on the Carol Burnett show. So he was Ghoulardi, and he would host movies, for kids to watch, scary movies. And then after him, there was the Ghoul, and he was on Channel 61 in Cleveland. Then there was Count Alucard, which is Dracula spelled backwards. He was dressed up.
Is it really?
Yeah, he was dressed up like Dracula. He'd come out of a coffin, and they had this cool show open with fog and whatnot, and bats hanging on a string, flapping their wings.
Bouncing around.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. I enjoyed those old shows.
Remember Elvira?
Oh, yeah. Mistress of the Dark. Mm-hmm. I met Elvira one time. She was at a car show.
I bet she looked a lot different.
She had her get-up on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
But, she's a redhead, believe it or not. Mm-hmm. Her name is Cassandra Peterson, I believe.
I'll be there.
Yeah. Very nice lady.
Boy, that was, 25, 30
Maybe
years?
30 years ago.
Really that long ago?
Yeah, she used to host her thing. Remember the girl that used to be on the all-night scary movie show? Up All Night. You don't remember that?
No.
She was on cable and hosted a show and always wore these low-cut things. And, of course, she had, let's say, canyon-like cleavage. And she would talk about, being up all night. You're with me up all night. Wish I could remember her name, too. You know what? What do we have a computer for if she's not going to do her job? I say we're going to fire her if she doesn't look her up. Can you look up all night?
No.
Are you refusing? Look it up for me.
Accessing data now.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. She brought it up. Here we go. It looks like No.
Is there a picture of her?
I wish there was. I'm going to have to look her up because she was a cute girl. She was a cute lady.
I want to see that cleavage.
Rhonda Schlitt, I guess, took it over after her, but it was Rhonda Shear. Actually, her name is Rhonda Honey Shear. Honey, Honey. Rhonda Honey Shear, born in 1954. She was a comedian, actress, and an entrepreneur. Known for her role as USA Network's B-movie queen for USA Up All Night in the 1990s. She started an intimate apparel business that was marketed on the Home Shopping Network, with one of her most successful products being the bra in 2010. And she regularly participates in Tampa Bay's annual Fashion Week. This all from Wikipedia.
Oh, I'll be darned.
Yeah, that Rhonda Shear, Up All Night, intimate apparel business, and all about horror movies and scary stuff.
I think the weather's changing.
Yeah, you think? I think it's because Vincent Price is coming up here on our rotation of favorite horror movie characters. Vincent Price. When I first saw him, I didn't care for him a whole lot because he had that nasal quality to his voice. I don't know I can't even imitate it, but he's kind of nasal. And I always liked Boris Karloff better. And when I was a kid, I felt like, well, I can't have two favorites, so I have to pick one. So Boris was my guy.
Oh, okay. I got you now.
But Vincent, do you know that was his real name?
No, I didn't.
Well, now you know. Vincent Leonard Price, Jr.
I'll be darned.
Named after his mom. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I was going to say.
He was born in May of 1911.
Wow.
So he was quite a bit younger than Boris Karloff, because Boris was born in the 1880s.
87, you said.
Yeah. So what's that make him, 13 years younger or something like that? But he was an actor, and he started off doing film noir, or black and white movies, as we say in America. And he did a lot of drama and mysteries and thrillers. He did radio, television, and a lot of movies. He's got 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Really?
Yes.
I'll be darned.
1 for motion pictures and 1 for TV. If you had to guess, what state of the Union do you think he was born in?
I would say Philadelphia.
That's a good guess. St. Louis, Missouri.
Close.
And he's got a star there.
Close.
You're very close. Missed it by that much.
Well, on the map, it's only that far.
Yeah, that's true. He was an art collector and a consultant with a degree in art history and lecturing, and he wrote books on the subject. And he was the founder of the eponymous Vincent Price Art Museum in California. And he was a gourmet cook.
Really?
Yeah. Who knew?
Not me.
I guess Mrs. Price knew. But
I bet she ate good.
he was the youngest of 4 children. His dad, Vincent Price Sr., was the president of the National Candy Company, and his wife, Marguerite Cobb Price. His grandfather, Vincent Clarence Price, invented Dr. Price's baking powder.
I'll be darned.
It was the first cream tartar baking powder, and that made them rich. So the family was well off.
Well, that's all you got to do is invent something, I guess.
Yeah, he was English Welsh and a descendant of Peregrine White, the first white child born in the colonial Massachusetts. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I don't think they mean white child. I think they mean White, the last name, child.
Oh, got it.
First of the white family to be born in Massachusetts. He graduated from Yale, worked on the campus humor magazine, The Yale Record, and studied for a master's degree in fine arts at the Courtauld Institute of Art in London. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it looks like that's how you'd pronounce it. And he didn't appear on stage for the first time until 1934. In 1935, he began acting in London, performing with the Orson Welles Mercury Theater, ironically.
Did he go to a culinary school since he was...
It doesn't say that. I wonder if he did. I bet he studied it somehow. Because people who like to cook like to study cooking. Mm-hmm. Or at least like to dabble in it, you know. He started out as a character actor, and he made his film debut in a 1938 film called Service Deluxe. And he was in the movie Laura in 1944, opposite Gene Tierney. And that was directed by Otto Preminger, or Preminger, however you want to pronounce it. Otto was a famous German director, but he directed a lot of movies here in the States. And he was also in, and this was great, he was in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein from 1948. I have a copy of that, and I like to watch it. My son enjoyed it when he was little. So I like to go back and look at that once in a while. Abbott and Costello. Also in that movie is Dracula. What was his name? Bela Lugosi.
Dracula the First?
Bela Lugosi. He was named after your dog, Bella.
Oh.
Yeah. Many people don't know that.
I didn't know she was that old. She doesn't look that old.
Yeah, she's pretty good for her age. I remember House on Haunted Hill. That's available on almost for free on DVD these days. I think it went into, I don't know, public domain or something, because it's always out at the dollar store where you can buy it for $1. And then they have...
was that House on the Haunted Hill?
House on Haunted Hill, yeah. That was made in 1959, so that was kind of later in the career. And The Tingler, where he played this eccentric millionaire named Frederick Lauren. And that was also in 1959. I think, was The Tingler, wasn't that the flying brain? It would fly in and attack people, it had like a spinal column attached with like a V probe at the end. It looked like all bone, and it would fly through the air, and it would stick that V probe in your neck and drain your blood.
Suck your brains out.
Or something like that. It might be. That might have been it.
I think that's what it is, sucking your brains out.
The Tingler. We used to have a horror show host in Cleveland that would play sound effects during the movie. The Ghoul would play a sound effect whenever, at the most inappropriate time. It was hysterical. I always enjoyed that because you never knew when it was going to happen. So there'd be some cartoon sound effect or some, this thing flew and it was sucking people's brains out.
Ooh.
Ew.
Brain sucker.
And he was in The Ten Commandments that was released in 1956. He played the master builder, Baca, when Moses was working under the slave driver, making bricks and using his feet to mash the straw into the mud. Yeah. He was a very commanding presence, very tall man, I think. I don't think it tells me how tall he is. Oh, yeah, the House of Wax in 1953, that was scary. Where he was this weird guy that owned a wax museum, and people didn't realize that. Okay, spoiler alert.
He was using real people or something.
Real people to make the wax figures? Yeah. Ooh. House of Usher in 1960. That's an old Edgar Allan Poe story. The Fall of the House of Usher. And The Pit and the Pendulum in 1961. And the Raven, now I just found this on Wikipedia. Raven was made in 1963, and that's the one that had Boris Karloff in it, where they were wizards or warlocks or something, and they were fighting each other at that table.
Right.
It was a Roger Corman movie. And Roger Corman featured a lot of busty women, usually, in his films. But it was great because not only was Vincent Price and Boris Karloff facing each other, but Peter Lorre was in there as well in that film. You remember Peter Lorre? Mm-hmm. Want to see my collection of human heads? He had that real weird way he spoke.
Right.
Peter Lorre.
I wonder if he really talked like that, or if...
Yeah, he did.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. He was from some foreign country. Jack Nicholson was also in The Raven. He was real young. He was in his 20s, I think.
I was going to say, yeah, he better have been real young.
Yeah. Edgar Allan Poe story. I guess it was an Edgar Allan Poe story. The Raven. Remember, that was Nevermore. It was a poem. I don't know how he made it into about two sorcerers, but it was about this guy that mourned the death of his wife, Lenore, and all he kept thinking about was death after she died. He didn't have much to live for. But he developed a whole story from that poem. Very strange, kids.
Very interesting.
The Raven. Rent it now, so that you can watch it and scare yourself.
Weather's picking up again.
I think it's because it's Halloween. Ever been to a haunted house?
Yeah, in Knott's Berry Farm a long time ago.
Yeah, and then the one at Disneyland. I keep getting those two mixed up.
Did they have one at Disneyland too?
Yeah,
well, probably on the haunted house.
The Haunted Mansion. Yeah. That was fun to go through. It was very clever. And of course they had the guy that, I don't know, Thurl Ravenscroft, I think, sang a lot of the stuff there for Disney.
Who?
Thurl Ravenscroft. His
Thurl Ravenscroft.
Yeah. Thurl, Thurl. Thurl, you'll know him as soon as I tell you who he is. He used to sing a lot of the Disney stuff. He would sing stuff on Daniel Boone, or Davy Crockett, and he would sing all the little movies that they had singers in. They would hire these singers, and he was one of them. He always sang bass. He was Tony the Tiger.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yep, Thurl. Very nice man. Just loved people.
He was thoroughly nice.
He was thoroughly nice. He had that spooky voice, and he was the voice inside the Haunted Mansion. Or something like that. I
never knew that.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
And he also sang, "You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch."
Really?
Yeah. That was Thurl. Great voice. He could sing. There was an old song that I learned as a child in Mr. Reader's class. He would come and bring his piano into each of our classes, and when it was time for music...
How did he get it through the door?
He pushed it, opened the door, and pushed it through. It barely fit. I think he had like 1.5 inches on either side, but he would get it through there, and that's what they did. He would travel from room to room in grade school and teach us songs.
I'll be darned.
And I'll tell you what, I can't emphasize enough how music ties a country together. It tells a story. It paints a picture of history. All these things, how important music is, and we just don't think about it. And we don't honor it like we should. I learned so much in that man's class. He taught us history. He taught us about the story behind the lyrics. Like if you're singing sea shanties, like I can't even think of one now, but he taught us 2 or 3 sea shanties, and every year we would sing them. He'd come in, you'd had music, I don't know how many times a week, once or twice a week, and he would have us sing it and tell you the story about how it developed or what the terminology meant in the song. I valued that so much. It helped me learn other things about history in life. So hats off to Mr. Reader. He changed my life. He told us the story of Bolero or Rimsky-Korsakov, Night on Bald Mountain. We learned all those classic songs, which I would have never learned otherwise. I mean, unless I got into my parents' record collection.
Well, I guess that's why he was a teacher.
Yeah, I learned so much. It helped my radio career because he talked about emotion in music and how it paints a picture and how a certain kind of sound elicits a certain kind of emotion, like something dark and dramatic is done by a cello, or
I'd hear that right now.
And Peter and the Wolf, there was a Peter and the Wolf, somebody that wrote a piece, I can't remember the name of it, but they told a story with it, and you would hear the little flute that was supposed to be the little bird that chased the fox, and I just got a lot out of that class. When I was there, I paid attention, and for some reason it was important to me. Other people goofed off in that class, but I enjoyed it. But I forget why I brought this up.
Me too. I thought we were talking about scary stuff.
Let's see. So another of our cast of characters, Mr. Peter Lorre. I know the name just kind of brings out the worst in things. His real name, Laszlo Lowenstein, born in 1904, and he died in March of 1964.
Wow.
He was Austro-Hungarian. Austria.
Austro.
Yeah, that's Austrian. So he was German-Hungary. I'm German-hungry right now myself.
Oh, am I? I'd like to have some sauerkraut and
some Wienerschnitzel.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks Wienerschnitzel is wieners.
Right.
It's not.
No, it isn't.
It's something totally different. And I can't tell you what it is, but it involves pastry of some sort.
Pastry?
Yeah, it's got like a coating on it or something, doesn't it? Isn't it?
No, it's like you take a hunk of meat and you pound it out and you put batter on it and you fry the son of a gun.
Oh, there's the batter. That's what I was
a
thinking.
Schnitzel.
That's the schnitzel? Listen here, you little schnitzel. So he was born in Vienna, Austria, and then moved to Germany, where he got onto stage and in a film in Berlin in the late 1920s. And he was in the German film M in 1931. That was pretty spooky.
M?
M.
What did it stand for?
Murder.
Oh.
Yeah, that was directed by Fritz Lang, and he was a serial killer who preys on little girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a real creep in that movie. But good movie. I recommend it. It's kind of a thriller.
M?
M. He left Germany when Adolf Hitler came to power, and his first English language film was The Man Who Knew Too Much from Alfred Hitchcock. It was made in 1934 in Britain. He eventually moved to Hollywood and became a featured player in many Hollywood crime and mystery films. And he was in Crime and Punishment, Mad Love, Mr. Moto. He actually played a Japanese guy in that film, I think. The Maltese Falcon from 1951.
Oh, isn't that the one film where they put the mascara on his eyes and made him look Oriental?
Actually, I think they put like some sort of not makeup, but like a rubber on the edge of his eyes to make it look almond shaped.
Right.
Yeah, so he was Mr. Moto. And the Maltese Falcon in 41 with Humphrey Bogart. Yeah, see, that was my best. Humphrey Bogart. Not good, but it was my best. Humphrey Bogart, Sidney Greenstreet was in that. And then he was in Casablanca. Peter Lorre often appeared in films with Sidney Greenstreet. Sidney was kind of a bad guy. I mean, he played bad guys in everything he did. Kind of a mobster type guy. And Peter Lorre was in 9 films with that guy.
Wow.
So they apparently liked the way they worked together.
I guess so.
And then a great movie, Frank Capra. Capra wrote that one with Jimmy Stewart. An Angel Gets Its Wings.
Oh, okay. The Christmas one.
Yeah, I love that story. What's it called? I'll be doggone if I can tell you.
Me either.
My wife goes, I listen to your show. You drive me crazy because you never tell me the name of anything. And I said, I'm sorry, my brain just doesn't work. But it's the Christmas story with, the bank, and he doesn't take the money to the bank. And
I can't remember the name of it either.
And An Angel Gets Its Wings, and it's one of my favorite films of all time. When I was a kid, I thought I had discovered it because it was on like at 2 a.m. And I went, oh man, what is this? And I kept watching it, and it kept getting better and better. And I always loved Jimmy Stewart. And of course, it was black and white. But Frank Capra, It's a Wonderful Life.
There it is.
Of course, if you haven't seen it, you need to. That's the one you have to see before you die. That's all I've got to say. And you'll probably want to watch it over and over again. And man, it just gets you choked up, even today. But he was in Capra's Arsenic and Old Lace. And I think that had, what's his name? Judy, Cary Grant. Wasn't Carrie and Arsenic and Old Lace?
I don't know.
You never saw that one?
What the hell are you asking me for?
Just thought you might know.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, he starred in it, as a matter of fact. I see that here in my old CompuBrain. Good show. It's about someone trying to poison somebody.
Jolly good show, chap.
Jolly good show, yes. I do so like it. So what was one of your favorite films, Garth, of the scary movie era?
From when I was real young, The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
There was if you look at it today, it's kind of laughable. I still like it, though. And it's still kind of spooky if you let your mind,
Right.
think that it's real. But when you look at this rubber suit the guy is in, it's almost like watching Godzilla.
Exactly.
Look at the rubber suit. It doesn't even bend where the guy's elbow bends,
Bends 5 inches higher. Or something.
It's so weird. But that was a good movie. So The Creature from the Black Lagoon. There was a swimmer, famous swimmer that came out of Florida, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me.
I think it was Rico or something, wasn't it?
Rico, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Rico Flavadaba?
No.
Rico
Yeah, it was a simple last name.
Flabadubius?
Very simple last name. He wasn't ethnic.
Yeah, he did some diving shows or something like that.
Yeah, he used to have underwater diving shows in Florida. You know how they used to have like a bar behind it? They have girls swimming in it and
the mermaids.
Mermaids, yeah, and that he used to produce those. And he did some topside water shows too. But he did a lot of diving when he was there. Rico Browning. That's the dude.
What it is.
Yeah. He was the creature. And he was the creature in all 3 movies.
I'll be darned.
Yeah. Don't be darned. Darn's like your socks. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Darn your socks.
Yes, I do.
Darn those socks. Well, since we've already told your story about the ghost haunting in your house, he hasn't come back since then, has he? That's good. I hope it never comes back.
Well, because I told him to leave. He doesn't belong here.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good thing. We don't like things like that hanging around the house.
It really didn't scare me, though,
Really?
Yeah, I just,
just
went right back to sleep. Okay, well.
Oh, boy, I'd have a hard time with that. Something like that happens and hanging over your head and haunting your room. I'd just be up all night.
But remember, weren't we talking to somebody that had almost the same experience or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
It was on their chest, but they didn't feel any pressure.
Pressure, right.
Same with me.
Yeah.
That was quite strange.
Yep. Very weird. Well, that was me when that thing was in my room.
Oh, no, it was somebody else, I think.
Because I was saying that I was held down on the bed. I couldn't move.
And she was kissing you profusely?
No. No. It was I don't know what it was. It was invisible. And it was pushing me down. I was paralyzed. But I could feel the pressure on my arms. But maybe there was another guy that talked about that.
I think so.
Yeah, because he said he couldn't feel anything on there, but he knew something was there.
Or his girlfriend or something. He was talking about.
Yeah, she was.
See, that's what happens when you get old. You forget everything.
Yeah, that's the scary thing, man. That right there.
Yeah, that's the...
Here's the biggest horror show of all. You ready for this? Old age will get every one of you.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not. If it hasn't approached you yet.
Mm-hmm.
It will.
That's the truth.
It's on its way. Oh, dear. Oh, I hate to even think about that.
Another month, I'll be in older age.
You will? Mm-hmm. Around Halloween. Oh, that's right now.
Never mind.
Yeah, well, we don't like to talk about age here at the show, at the Radio Ranch. But actually, we're not afraid of it. It's just that there's enough other things to talk about.
Right.
But I try to lift something and my back goes, "You're not 21. You're not 21.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get that. Why? Why? I don't know.
Wah, wah, wah. And then I wrote, it might be... Take it away.
The end of the show.
Oh, it sure the hell is, isn't it?
Yeah, funny how that happens when you want it to happen. I just thought it and there it was. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little talk about some of the great horror folks. We didn't get to all the ones I wanted to talk about because we're always
Talking about something else.
But anyway, I hope I'm going to bring some more up next time because it's a genre that I enjoy. In fact, I've got a friend that I've known for a while, back in my old high school days. He actually was a friend of my brother's. His name is J.R. Bookwalter, and he produces horror movies. He produced one in Akron, my hometown.
Horror or horrible movies?
Horror movies. But yeah, and I'm trying to think what else. He's worked with William Shatner, and
Shat all over the place.
yeah, pretty much. But maybe he'll talk about that. Maybe he won't. I don't know. But I'm going to try to get him on an interview. But in the meantime, let's go to Uncle Garth's Almanac of interesting and unusual facts.
Strange but true facts.
Strange but true. Hit me.
Did you know it takes 120 drops of water to fill a teaspoon?
I did not know that.
Well, you do now.
And how do you measure a drop?
Just out of an eyedropper, I guess.
I suppose.
And then...
Is it that consistent? I guess it has to be.
It has to be, yeah.
Okay, quickly. We're running out of time.
And then a 10-gallon hat only holds less than a gallon.
And we'll leave you with that from the Bunker Boys.
Bye-bye.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember brought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books a crease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, or "Madam, truly your forgiveness I implore." But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarcely was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore, Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word did he outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, Nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thou God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, O quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aidenn it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or friend, I shrieked upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore.